तुम्हें किसी को दे रहा है?
Thank you very much, Saroj Ma'am, the head of department, economics, Patna University. बैठ के
फोटो ले ले सर, रिकॉर्ड कर दो।
नहीं वीडियो
ठीक है सर।
I am very thankful to Saroj Ma'am for inviting me as a guest lecturer before all the dignitary faculty members and all the industrial students collecting here. I am also apologized for being late because there was huge log jam in Patna city because of metro construction. I have already seen it and faced it in Delhi for last 20 years because Delhi has a series of metro construction during last 2 and 3 years. Friends, the topic is G20 summit and its effects over Indian economy. It's a very appropriate topic, it's a very contemporary topic, and I was told you have to deliver lecture on this topic because it will have a more fruitful knowledge, information, perception and perspective to the students of economics. Because this G20 summit, I think this is one of the most remarkable events in the history of post-independent India, in the economic history of post-independent India. Our country has achieved so many strides, so many paths, but I think convening the G20 summit, which is, as Ma'am told, this is the 19th summit after its inception in 1999. India got the presidency, and Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister, took this event in a very serious note, and he did a lots of hard work, did lots of homework, and he just faced the whole the India, the country of India, the economy of India, the culture of India, the development and progress of India, the country which has already got the recognition of becoming the largest developing economy at present. It has achieved the largest growth rate in the present bunch of the nations. So that Mr. Narendra Modi was actually wanted to show all the plethora of gatherings who came in the G20 summit. And I think that this G20 summit provided our country not only the commanding height of Indian diplomacy, but also lots of opportunity in terms of economics. I think so many developed country, because the G20 is a gathering of all those countries who have a very high stake in the global economy. I think 80 to 85% GDP of the whole global economy is concentrated in among these G20 countries. Around 75% of international trade is being conducted through this galaxy of nations. So the G20 summit, the convention of G20 summit in our country, it provided a very fantastic message to all the top investors of the global arena. And India not only did its homework in terms of economy, but also in terms of quality, in terms of international recognition. I think this G20 summit actually gave a very clarion call to the whole committee of the nation. India totally deserves for the membership of United Nations Security Council. Though there are so many countries in the contender list of permanent members like Brazil, South Africa, Australia, Germany, and India have already been it has been supported by the global leader, United States, from very before. We are talking about the economic effects of G20 summit. I would like to say, uh, we are just ushering into the era of becoming a developed nation. We have already have a map of the next 25 years of becoming developed country by 2047. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has already fixed the target, and he is a very great taskmaster. And he took the issue in a very ambitious way, in a very serious way, and he just also fulfilled it. So the G20 summit, it was the Bharat Mandapam. It's not only projected the most beautiful side of the summit till the 2023, because so many conventions were held in the different parts of the world, but we never saw such kind of exhibition, such kind of demonstration, and such kind of organization. And I think India, even the opposition, of the political opposition of the present incumbent government, they also came in the favor of this summit. They also praised the success of this summit. And I think the new corridor which has been proposed by the G20 member country, and this is just reply of Road Belt and Road BRC. I think this is the major achievement which India got during this G20 summit. And it has not only India not only presented a very fantastic kind of economic diplomacy also, because this was the first time when we invited the whole African Union. Around 55 countries they had, and Africa has a very good potential for the future growth of economy. And this was the first time. Till now, only South Africa was being invited for this such kind of summit. But Narendra Modi just taken a master stroke, and he invited the whole African Union. We already know that the head of the state of Russia and China, they didn't participate in this conference. They may have some their own reason. But in terms of China, we definitely know this. China was very jealous of this convention, because China regards India as its a contender, as its a competitor, and we already have a border dispute with that country. So China didn't come, but it was not able to malign the shining atmosphere of this G20 summit. And the way Narendra Modi welcomed all the head of the state in an Indian way, in an Indian cultural way, that was a fantastic. We also saw the spokesman of US, United States, and White House. When they briefed about this G20 summit, they spoke in Hindi. So this was also a major victory for our Indian culture. Friends, we talk about the state of the G20 summit over our economy. So I would like to say that we already have two kind of foreign investments. One is the FII and another is the FDI. I think India is doing very well on both fronts. In terms of FDI, we already know we have a very depression kind of situation, very recession kind of situation all over the world. Most of the European country, American country, and all sorts of developed world, they don't have a very good growth rate. The international trade has already come down, and those countries are facing a very high rate of inflation also. So in that arena, in that context, India has, by organizing this G20 summit, it just presented a very good picture for the all top investors of the world. And I think when the G20 summit was organized, our stock markets were started to boom. First time our both BSE and NSE was touching above 65,000 or even touching the 70,000 mark. And that case was also seen with the NSE performance of NSE also. So when we talk about our Indian economy, it is very necessary that we have a very such kind of atmosphere which give us impression of a very feel good. There is a one term which is generally used in media, feel good. When we have a feel good feelings, then our economy, our polity, our society, our civil life, our all sorts of our public life gets illuminated. It's a new sort of enthusiasm come into the whole public life. So I think the G20 summit has benefited our Indian economy, and it is going to benefit in the coming future also. The benefit will come more in our future. Presently, we just got a momentum. We just got a very optimistic kind of picture, a very optimistic kind of investment climate in the country. And I think the way we are progressing, the way we are developing, our growth rate we already achieved around 7% during last financial year in 22-23. I think this 23-24 will be witnessing around not less than 6% growth rate. And our forex is have already touched 6 trillion, $6 billion mark, already 600 billion mark. So we don't feel we will come again in a very depressing kind of situation what we faced during Corona period. So I feel the India the way proposed, its full name is, I have just noted it down. The multilateral development bloc was proposed in this summit. You must know about this. What is that? We already have a bilateral kind of talk between two countries. When we talk about the multilateral development bloc, it has a very high meaning, because it includes all sorts of countries, all sorts of member countries. And when we have international financing, when we have an alternative sort of international financing other than World Bank and IMF, then it provides a very optimistic and very good sign for the growth of the global economy. You already know we have already touched the fifth largest economy mark. Just 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years back, we have a 10th position in the arena of global economy. Now we have come to the 5th position, and very soon, by 2027, we are going to touch $500 trillion economy GDP mark, and then we will become the 3rd largest economy of the world. And we already know about that. Talking about the G20, we had only 2.1 or 2% share in the GDP of the G20 economy. Now we have just doubled it. In 2023, we have now touching the 4% mark of the whole global GDP of G20 countries. And we feel that by the year of 2027, we will have a share of more than 5% in the global GDP of world economy. I was talking about the that corridor, which is connecting with Asia, Gulf, Europe, that is called IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe corridor. I think this was the biggest achievement of our Indian diplomacy, of our economic diplomacy, which we presented before the world, because China was showing in a very arrogant manner, and it's in a commanding manner, that I have just proposed a BRI. So that will connect all sorts of Central Asian countries, and it will deprive India, though they also offer India to come and join this BRI. But the way it has proposed the BRI, which was including Russia, Central Asia, and also connecting with the European country, we already know that China is the global manufacturing house. Though it is facing the music of Corona, and India has just benefited with this situation and achieved the largest growing economic time. But China is still, it's a very stronger economy when we compare with that of India. China has around a $13 trillion economy, the very next to America, and we are just around 325 or 350. So still, the China, the level of Chinese economy is just 3 or 4 fold bigger than India. So India cannot sit in an idle manner. It has to go steadily and steadily, continuously and consistently. Because if you want to match your competitor, when you want to just make them behind, you cannot sit idle. You have to always go and in a hurried manner, and you never keep yourself in a idle manner. So other than this G20 summit and its effects of Indian economy, I would like to personally suggest to our policy makers, to our public policy thinkers, we must have a work culture in India. I think India is a country where population is very emotional, and our ruling class, they also feel very carried away when they achieve something. Though we also achieved in our SCR games, we have also break the record of getting the highest medal tally. But I think we have to achieve so many things, and for this we need some fundamental reform. It is a very heartening that this government has given a very big priority to the infrastructure building, and they have definitely replaced the earlier government's record in terms of making highway, in terms of making railway, in terms of electricity generation and distribution also. First time India has achieved electricity for all targets, which was not earlier there. So we need some new things, and I think we as a country, if we want to progress in a very rapid manner, we also need to fill the gap of the differences between man to man, between community to community, between region to region, between sub-region to sub-region. And for that we need some egalitarian kind of policy which can eliminate all sorts of discrimination, deprivation, and all sorts of favoring, and all sorts of jugaad culture, which is very prevalent in a country like India. So we need a very robust kind of public administration. And when we talk about public administration, then we have to talk about our digital infrastructure also. Because this is the era of electronic governance, e-governance. And I think India has done something better, but still lots are to be done. When we talk about the third tier of our governance, when we talk about the administration of the villages, when we talk about our small city and municipal city, I think there is a big lackluster in the governance of those areas. So G20 summit has definitely provided a new momentum, a new optimism, and a new feel-good picture on the diplomatic front, on the international front. And the present regime has taken some few master strokes in terms of taking claim in the United Nations Security Council, in terms of building a new Galiana corridor, in terms of IMEC. So this is the major achievement which we will feel in the coming future, what our ruler, what our administrator, and what our political master did on the policy front. But when we talk about the reform, which is my main fundamental area, so I think we need somewhere 1 dozen fundamental reform, and that includes political reform also. We need a very robust kind of all public systems. When we talk about our all infrastructure like railways, I just posted one YouTube video, which also Madam Saroj ji also pressed that video. That was regarding the Vande Bharat train and the functioning of Indian Railway. When we talk about the state government, I think what earlier we have electricity position in different states, that scenario has totally changed. Even you see your state Bihar, you will find the electricity has a so pathetic shape in the past period. but we have now a continuous supply. Not only that, but also we have fulfilled the 100% connection with the household and with the villages and with the clusters. So reform is not a one-time task; it's a continuous task. We always need reform. We always need to perform. We always need to transform. So such kind of things, because this is the mixture of all things. There is no one-way reform. It's all an intermixture. It's interconnected, interrelated. If you reform quality, then we will have effect over our economy also. When you reform your public administration, it will have an impact over your quality also. When you reform your economy, it will have an effect over your strategic power also, your defense power also. When you achieve a bigger mark and the bigger rating agencies appraisal and the ranking in the global development index, then you will have a very strong purview in the international diplomacy front also. And our Prime Minister keep talking about, yeah, I am not being appreciated and I am not being honored in the Committee of Nations. This is the 140 crore people of India, which is giving respect and which is giving honor. And I am just representative of that. Because the people have given mandate to him and he is feeling the appraisal and the praise of all the committee of the bigger nations. So definitely India has a more better, more comfortable and more remarkable position in the international diplomacy front. It was never seen in India and Indian citizens were getting such kind of honor, prestige in the foreign country. When you go to the foreign country, you will find that India has a standing there. And 2 crore NRI people, they have become our ambassadors. We not only have 228 ambassadors in the different countries. Our 2 crore NRI and 2 crore Anivasi Bharatiya, they have become the true ambassadors of the country like India, where the culture, history and civilization is 5,000 years old. And the economy has started to boom. We economists talk about the 200 or 300 years back that India was the largest economy. Our economy was constituting around 40 to 50% of world GDP. But that has become a matter of past. Now let us talk about the present only. And when we talk about present, we cannot say that we are at the top, but definitely some glimmer of hope has arrived through so many things. Through our fifth rank in the global economy, through our G20 summit, through our achievement in different sports activity, and the very immediate and accurate decision taken by our decision makers when any sort of national and international problem arises. Just we saw what Canada did with India, and they just taken a very animosity kind of approach against India. But Indian decision makers just immediately replied in a diplomatic way, and India just sort out this thing before becoming maligned or before becoming a very different kind of country in terms of so many separatist elements which we are trying to do and which were trying to harm country like India. We know it very well. We were once divided when we got independence. Now we are not ready to becoming divided, and we will not allow to any sort of division kind of thing, separatist kind of thing. Now I come to the second part of my lecture. That is some critical point of this G20 summit also. Because we heard in some newspaper when the G20 summit was being organized and Delhi was just being cleaned and cleared for this conference, some jhukis and clusters were just covered with the high banners, and it was already reported in the Western media. It is true, we are the most unequal country in the world. There is no doubt about that. And we have to work on that. I am suggesting government of India just form a Ministry of Equality. And for that, you have to enter some fundamental policies. And those policies are the policy of employment, the policy of labor, the policy of education, the policy of health. These are the 4, 5, 6 fundamental things. Because we cannot allow any person to be born in the family of Reliance, in the family of Adani, or in family of Tata, or in family of big Jamindar. It is not in our hands. The destiny fixes it, determines it, who will be the heir of whom. But when we come in the world, when we come in the living world, then we have a country, then we have a state, we have a government, we have a sovereign power, we have a system. Then we have to address our education system, health system, employment system, and labor policy, labor laws. This should have a total a chanting of a equal kind of policy. We have several sort of discriminatory policies. We have organized workforce, then at the same time we have a unorganized workforce, which constitutes 85% of the total labor force of the country. We have urban world, at the same time we have a rural world. We have agriculture India, then we have also industrial India. We have a upper caste community, we have a lower caste community. We have a English medium educated people, we have a vernacular language educated people. So many kind of demarcation line, division line is getting erupted and erected in our society because our policies, our laws are not uniform. We don't treat every citizen in a one way, in a one manner, or with an equal note. If you have a money, you can allow your students, sons and daughters to get admitted in a very big school, public high school, and etc. You allow your patient in a very big 5-star, 7-star hospital. You allow your sons and daughters to get their job in a big multinational job, which has a worth and pay of around 1 crore in a year. So we have a different type of world. We have some 10th pass or 12th pass rural people who don't get a job and don't get the exposure of the better society. And they go to the Jan Seva Express and Samjeevi Express and go to the industrial centers and urban centers of India and get their education and getting salary between 10 to 20,000 or 25,000. But Indian middle class is definitely rising and it is around 40 crore people there. And those people have a very big aspiration and government is also hearing them and taking into account them. And they are getting prosperity and all. And they are also contributing taxes to the government kitty. It is true that the whole agriculture area, whole rural area don't provide any share to the direct tax kitty of the government of India. It is true. But the one economist has sent an article to my magazine and that article was regarding the tax payment. And he told that the one who doesn't pay tax is more poor. And one who pays tax, despite paying tax, is a more rich. So it doesn't mean that you pay tax, then you will become poorer. And if you don't pay tax, you will become richer. So many things are there, so we need to address some fundamental issues. There is some lacuna, there is some discrepancies, there is some leakage. So we have to address all these things and we have to chalk out those kind of policy which can treat every people of the country in a one manner, in uniform manner. And then we will have a more stronger country. Our citizenry will have a more empowerment and more fundamental human development. And then we will get all sorts of economic indicators which we economists generally talk about. So I think when we talk about G20 summit, definitely it has given a very good message, a very encouraging message to the economic policy, economic thinkers. I am just quoting the name of Amitabh Khan, who is the Sherpa of G20, who was the earlier CEO of Niti Aayog. He is also a very good public thinker. He just told us that the G20 summit is the largest win. It is the biggest win for the Indian diplomacy in the post-independence period. I also quite agree with his view. The G20 summit has given a very good message to India in terms of its economy, in terms of its international position, and also a very leading role in the global arena in the solving the several problems of globe. And I think we may criticize our Premier Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but on some front, his bold and his very timely decision has benefited the country a lot. With this note, I just end my this lecture. And if you have any query, any question, I will be very happy try to answer all those questions. Thank you very much.
Students, you have been given 10 to 15 minutes for question or any query. Okay?
और हिंदी में भी पूछिए, मैम ने कहा था हिंदी अंग्रेजी मिक्स करने के लिए, लेकिन सॉरी मैं लगातार इसमें बोल